let us know in the Q&A. But I love them. Those are cute. I still haven't gotten that update on Zoom where when you put your little hand in a heart, it does a heart for you. Anyway, all right. Vicky says, love everything Macia has to share. This is common, Vicky, which we absolutely love. Sarah, always want to learn from Dr. Reynolds. Lorena as well. Macia. Oh my goodness. I love this. Juan says, Hola from Mexico. Anita says, interested in breakthrough coaching. You are in luck. Sarah says, anything by Macia is worth listening to. I've never seen so many comments with just Macia exclamation point or a first name exclamation point. That's incredible. Laura, I love Macia. Always love to learn from her. We've got Matt Ricky says, listening from Fort Collins, I am looking to find new ways to challenge resistant clients with compassion, curiosity, and courage. I love that. All right. Well, that's what this session is all about. Matthew, thank you for summarizing it so beautifully for us. I'm so thrilled to see so much love in the audience and to have you all with us today. Macia Reynolds will be covering how to create powerful breakthroughs in thinking that lead to lasting change with your clients on this session. Now, as a gift for those of you who stay with us to the end of this 60 minutes, we will send you today's presentation slides. To get these, all you'll need to do is fill out a short 3-second poll at the very end of the session. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Kristen Nolan, the Director of Client Success for Coaching.com. And as many of you know, Coaching.com partners with world-renowned thought leaders in the coaching space to bring you advanced learning experiences. And today we are thrilled to be with one of the most respected and influential voices in our community, Dr. Macia Reynolds. As you all know, Macia is a leading thought leader in the area of breakthrough coaching and a beloved expert with our coaches. She has coached clients in 43 countries, written 4 best-selling books, was the 5th global president of the International Coach Federation, and she's recognized by global gurus as the #1 female coach in the world. Her groundbreaking research, writing, and training on reflective inquiry gives coaches a clear path to mastery. In this session, Macia's going to deliver as much value as she can, of course. And in the time we have left, she's going to explain how she's opening the door to just 50 coaches to work with her directly in her live intensive breakthrough course, which we are excited to share with you at the end. So with all that in mind, I want to bring on Dr. Macia Reynolds. Macia, turn on your camera. Yay.
Good morning. Great.
Good
Well,
morning.
thank you. All right. Am I ready to go?
Ready.
All right. Um, it's an interesting thing. It's one of my most favorite topics is to talk about um, making clients uncomfortable, which always, seemed like it was not what we were supposed to do. In fact, so many times people ask me after they see me do a demo, they're like, "Didn't you break the rules? Is that what you're supposed to do?" And you know, the interesting thing is I helped write the rules. I was a part of writing the ICF competencies at the very beginning, so I kind of know, what is within the range of what's possible to do as a coach. But I find so many coaches over the years, what they're trying to figure out is how do I do it right, as if there is a right way. And what is it that I'm supposed to be doing that will help them feel safe, which seems to contradict that making them uncomfortable, when actually it's the safety that allows you to create a little discomfort. And what we're going to go through today is what I learned years ago. And please understand, I've been researching learning for, I don't even want to start counting the years, over 40 years now. And I know that in order to really learn, there has to be a let go of what you know. That is not a comfortable place. And so if we're not willing to go into that, we miss opportunities for the breakthroughs, for the new learning that will truly help them go beyond what they think they know now to what's possible for them in the future. That when we look at what is it when I talk to coaches about, uh, what it is that they stops them from the discomfort, the positive rule. I'm supposed to make my clients feel positive and confident all the time. And I don't know whoever said that, that no, we're not wanting them to feel diminished or uh, destroyed. But in the process of helping them to understand what's possible, there will be those moments, but then we coach them through it. So they come out on the other side and see the positive results. The second one, um, I'm not sure. When they ask me what to do, and I don't even know what it is I'm supposed to say. Well, this is the not willing to confront rule. To say, well, I think you have a lot of experience. I'd like to hear what you've been thinking about. Just put it forward, no matter what it is that could be right or wrong. Could you share what's on your mind? What experiences have you had in the past where you watched other people do what you do? There's so many ways of getting beyond the I don't know what to do, what would you do? That often makes us uncomfortable. And then we move into giving advice. And then there's, I struggle with explaining to clients what coaching is all about, that differentiates me, but then oftentimes when I hear people explain coaching, they get into the old cliche of, well, it's this is where you are today, this is where you want to go, and I'm going to help you get there. Okay, but that doesn't really explain the power of coaching. There's so many other modalities that can do that. But when we really talk to them about expanding their mind to see possibilities in a way they can't do for themselves, then I'm going to just help them think through the dilemmas that they're facing and to see what they can't see, what they've been avoiding, what their brain is stopping them. So I'm just their thinking partner, helping them walk through that. So these things that make you uncomfortable, to be able to stop and take a look at that, because you have to move into comfort and calm in order to be able to move them into that space. So I just want to ask you, we're going to just go through, and is it the chat or the Q&A that
It'll
we're
be the
using?
Q&A, Marcia.
Okay, thank you. So,
Yeah.
what confuses you about coaching? What's come up that you're confused or you're not sure about? If you could give us a couple of things, just one sentence from each of you, and we'll go through some.
Um, Prakash is saying rules versus intuition.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay. And we'll talk about intuition today and what that is, and that it's not from outer space, it's from inner space. So, okay.
I love, I love that. Jason's saying the differences between good coaching and ICF guidelines.
Yeah, and again, there's that misinterpretation of the rigidness um, that people think the ICF is looking for when, yeah, well, look at that. That's not necessarily the case. That's been misinterpreted over the years. Hmm.
Yeah. I'll read one more for you because I'm seeing
Hmm.
this come up a lot. It's when is it coaching and when is it advice?
Yeah. Well, oftentimes when you start with the question or the statement, well, it's a question, have you tried this? That's advice, or when we're leaning them toward one way. So what do you think about this, doing this? And so we think because we're offering it as a suggestion. I always say hold your suggestions to the end. If it's really, something that's tied into what they've given, you might say, can I add to what you've shared? But don't interrupt their process because that says you don't believe in them, that you don't believe in their potential, that they can really figure this out, but it's going to take some processing with you um, to do that. So when we really have that, I want them to do this, they should be doing this, you've got to let that go. And that takes practice. I recognize that. I came out of years, decades of being a trainer. So, of course, I want people to do things a certain way. So, being able to release the I think, is what's so critical. So, I do want to look at the positive side. This is the quick agenda we're going through today. Why discomfort in coaching is good. And many of you have followed me for a while. Before I even wrote Coach the Person, I wrote the book, The Discomfort Zone, based on what I had researched in what does it take to really learn and grow, and the power of that moment of discomfort, of not knowing, in order to open up to what is possible to know now. We can do simple problem solving with people, and they'll discover some new things, but it's all based on what they already know. They're just building on that. But to truly help them to let go of the knowing, to move into the true realm of possibility, that requires disruption. And we need to be comfortable with that. So we'll take a look at how that works, how to work with that resistance and hesitation that was mentioned at the beginning, because that's okay. That's just another emotion to deal with. And I'll give you a few tips with the time we have remaining on how to use your reflective inquiry to move them into that space. Okay, so I want you to write, how do you feel about this statement? The best leaders and coaches find value in making others feel discomfort. And yes, it's a leading question because of everything I just said. But honestly, I want you to go into your body because it's your body that stops you from the challenge that causes the discomfort, not your brain. You know that you'll do this, but your body says, no, 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 no. And you have to stop that. So how does your body say, whoa, discomfort? Do you feel excited, scared, doubtful, confused? Maybe all of it, because we can feel many emotions at once. So what are they saying, Kristen?
I have some funny comments. Intrigued, woo woo, anxious.
Woo woo. Yeah, I was always the woo woo girl in my high tech companies.
Actually, woot woot. So like, yeah, like
Oh, woot
excited.
woot.
Yeah.
Oh, woot woot.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Confused, fully agree. I love discomfort. Discomfort is great. I,
Good. Okay. Well, then we can move right into the work. And I want to say that real briefly, some of you have heard me say this, and yes, I'm hoping to go skydiving this month, but at the first ICF European conference, it was up in Switzerland, up in the Alps, and I decided to go parasailing off an Alp. And this is what I learned what it takes to override the protective brain because I had to run toward a cliff on the top of one of the highest Alps, and the parachute was behind me and the guy that I was doing tandem with was behind me, and all I could see was the cliff, and I had to run to the cliff and jump. And yes, the parachute came up, but my body and my brain was going, no, 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 no. And I'm going, yes, 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 I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so I know that sometimes you just really have to grit it out to get over that fear that I'm not sure this is right. So it's true, and you've heard me say this many times. We hold on to what we see and who we are because we don't want to feel uncertain. It's a natural state, and we don't recognize this. This is below the conscious level that, I define myself the moment I wake up in the morning. I know who I am. I know what I need to do, and I have these stories that, oh, and I get up early and that's a hard one to break. And so the moment I wake up, I kind of know who I am and what it is supposed to be doing, where I am, and I don't think about it. I can't think about it. If I stop and have to change that, there's discomfort in that moment. So that's just the process that we're working through. That when we're asking people to change, and especially to change who they are, and I've more and more worked into the power of identity coaching, that when I help people to envision what would it look like if you were to change this and it would um, unfold in the way you want, to get that picture, but then ask, so who are you in that picture? And then to coach them into that space, that means they do. And I love this quote by Rebecca Solnit, that they have to let that part of themselves die in order to become something new. That's difficult. That's difficult because if we don't fully let go of it to be someone new, it will come back. So we hold on to these things because they're comfortable, even though something in our head is saying, this isn't serving me right now. But you see, the brain prefers self-preservation over self-actualization. So we're always talking about being our best self and self-actualizing, but in all honesty, we often don't get there, especially when we come into conflict with other people. I always say that, you can go on top of a mountain and self-actualize, and then as soon as somebody walks up on the mountain and sits in your space, you're not so self-actualized anymore. And so to be able to deal with our own humanity, and to understand this is difficult and it's going to take a process to move through this um, uh, in order to become someone else. So it changes my behavior. When we become someone else, we actually create sustainable change over time. Otherwise, when things feel awkward, we often go back to the way we've done things in the past. So combining the envisioned possibility of a situation with the who, and then getting into what are the difficulties of moving into that. And that's where the belief systems are going to come into play that need to be challenged. Because you see, we're master rationalizers. We have good reasons, just like that, for doing whatever it is we do, and we don't question them. Because even again, somewhere in the back of our heads, we're saying, I don't know, that's not quite right. But nope, nope, I'm not going to make that phone call now. It'll be better to wait, even though it's not better to wait, but you give yourself a reason. We're so good at that. And that's why, having someone outside of us to reflect contradictions, to say, like I was doing reading a session yesterday, and she started by saying, in my relationship, I want to be held up higher and be the priority sometimes. And because I feel like I'm down the list. And then when she said what she wanted to create was, well, I just need to be more tolerant and loving and compassionate. Well, what happened to the desire, the need, that, and even to look at what's driving this feeling of I'm not being cared about enough. That is being more compassionate going to solve that? To be able to ask a question like that, because we hold what they're telling us, we hold it in our brain, and then we can put that in front of them so they may see, the rationalizations, the simple solutions that come up that are not really solving their problem. And she's probably told herself that many, many times before, and it hasn't worked. So what makes her think it's going to work this time? I remember asking this guy, he was telling me what it is he's going to do to break a habit. And I said to him, okay, great. So how long have you had this habit? And he said to me, since I was about 5 years old. And I remember saying, okay, so it's a lifelong habit, and you just gave me a very simple answer. Do you think that simple answer is going to break a lifelong habit? That maybe we need to look at this a little in a little different way. And sometimes, a lot of times actually, my clients laugh at themselves when I do this. So understanding, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but when we stay in just surface level coaching and we don't challenge them, it's very cognitive. You're thinking about what to say and you stay in your brain, and cognitive learning. It happens here where there's short-term memory. This is when we tell people what to do. That's the advice giving. And maybe they remember it, maybe they don't. When they try to recall what you said, they forget half of it, and then you get disappointed in them because they don't remember. And this is often where this is problem solving, this is surface level coaching, happens at a cognitive level. We do have fear-based coaching, and I hope, or learning, and I hope you're not doing that. That's a you better do this or else. And they do it, but it becomes permanent and difficult to change. So what we do in coaching is we're dealing with the creative brain in the middle where we hold long-term memories. And when we ask them a question that makes them stop and think and then realize how they've been hurting themselves and sabotaging and hurting others, and it's painful, but they recognize it and they know they need to change. Things start to rewire here in the middle brain, which creates sustainable change. So we want to stay here and really be willing to ask the questions that are going to make them stop and think and question themselves. This is why it's so important that we do move into the realm of asking a question, even though we know it's going to make them uncomfortable. So when we look at what we're doing in coaching, we summarize their key phrases, we ask exploratory questions. Um, but take time, be slow, really listen into the stories as to what they're telling you, and so you can put them together, so you can offer it back, not just parrot it back, but offer the question that's tied to the summary that makes them stop and question themselves. And what happens is that moment of discomfort, they'll stop and stare at you. I call it the baby stare, the just briefly, because the brain has to like go offline to reconnect. And oftentimes, when they have the new awareness, they will have a rush of dopamine, like, wow. But then they'll have an emotional reaction. They may cry because they're sad about what's been going on. They may be embarrassed. They may totally laugh at themselves. They may be confused. So somebody said, I need to be compassionate, curious, and courageous. Um, but how do you do that? Write a few words that put you in that space that helps you be that way.
We have a couple of responses coming in. Many of them revolve around breathing.
Yes, because I just want to say that it's an interesting thing. When we even have a slight fear, we either stop breathing or we breathe faster. And I read a study once about the amount of times a day that we actually stop breathing, and it was incredible. I don't remember the number. I'll have to look it up. So,
It's quite a
yeah.
bit. I've done that as well. Um,
hmm
Also getting silence,
Yeah.
a lot of
Silence
silence.
is so important, the pauses, to let them think. If they start to think, then I want you to be quiet. Let them think. Let them think. And if it goes too long, ask them what's coming up for you. Yeah, pausing and stillness and quiet is so important. hmm Okay. All right. So, um, we're coaching their stories, that, because my brain's a box of stories, but I need you to, as a coach, to help me put my stories out here. I can't pull them out myself. And that's what we're doing as coaching, because it defines my reality, which is what I'm making up as I think is real right now, which is that's how we deal with life and who I think I am. So disruptive reflections, and it's often the reflection. So I heard you say this, and then you said this. What do you think about that? That's okay. That helps them to stop and look into their stories, to allow that examination, and the rules that they're living by, that they've made up or somebody has given them, and how they're defining themselves today in relation to who they want to be. So the breakthrough means I'm breaking through the old stories, which are well protected by my brain, which often then makes them feel uncomfortable. But learning happens in the moment of uncertainty. People tell me often, "Oh yeah, you're such a direct coach." Well, I'm not confronting in that sense. I'm just challenging their thinking. And if you notice when you watch me, I don't do it. I try not to lean in. I try to stay back, and just say it as a matter of fact. But I've also know that I'm using my emotions to create the safe space up front. So, well, you need to look at what would be your fears around challenging, what stops you. So, write a few things. What stops you from challenging your clients?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Mm. What is
Maria
your
said,
fear? Fear of what? Yeah.
yeah, fear of closing them down. There's a
Mm-hmm.
fear
Mm-hmm.
of losing connection,
Mm-hmm.
my own discomfort.
Right.
Yeah,
Starts there.
yeah. Oh my gosh. So many good answers here. Thinking
Mm.
of the right question, losing
Right.
connection, not knowing where the line is, being
Yeah.
rejected by them. So much
Yeah.
honest.
I always say my first coach, who I got to go visit for my birthday last week, who's 93, she always said, "Marcia, nobody ever died from coaching." If you ask a question, they don't like it, they'll tell you.
It sounds like something she would say. I want to, I want to read you one more.
Yeah.
Offending them.
Yeah, like we're
Yeah.
so scared of that, but you can tell, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, did what I say just, was I off the mark with that? Tell me what just happened for you when I asked that." Just be notice and ask. If you've created safety with them up front with your emotions of full open nervous system with curiosity, care, and compassion, they'll dance with you through this. So, that not knowing what to say, go back and reflect what they just said, went through, or, just, so, okay, so, we're moving on a path that feels a little uh, like we're going off. What do you think is going on right now? Asking them. Don't say, what would you want me to ask you? Please don't ask them to tell you how to coach. So, but so just go back to the process. It feels like we've moved into a really different space. What's happening for you right now? What's coming up for you? Um, I've never been fired for challenging someone. I had them get angry with me, even hang up with me on me, but they came back because it wasn't the question. It was what they didn't want to see when I asked the question. And when they realized that, they actually appreciate it. They appreciate it. Uh, and fear of being judged as a bad coach. Well, okay, so it's not about stopping your brain from reacting. Your brain says this is not comfortable, and so it's in the body. So it's like me running to the edge of the cliff, my body going, "Eh, stop, 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 stop," brain going, "No, no, no," and I just, no, I'm gonna feel fun. Fun, this is fun. And it's what you choose is what you choose to feel. Even when they're resisting and they're hesitating, they still must feel that energy from you. You must practice staying in this space no matter what's happening, no matter what's happening. So paying attention and really appreciating this is just where they are right now. It just feels difficult for them, or they're not sure that they're moving in the right space. That's okay. So paying attention is cognitive, but truly accepting is with our full body presence. I receive with my heart and my gut, as well as my brain, and then offer back what I give you without thinking. And that's your skill, is to use your emotions, because if you stay in that space, they'll want to connect with you and even go through this the dark tunnel to come out the other side because we're triggering their emotions with our emotions. It's called co-regulation. And I go through a lot of how do we create this in the deep dive program. And then they actually want to have this conversation and they'll stay with you. So oftentimes when I do a demo and somebody says, "Well, how did that make you feel?" And they may say, "It felt awful and that was good." Because we come out on the other side. And this is what's going to keep our profession alive. So, coaching is a spontaneous interaction where we merge our energy um, with theirs. So, we must come in and maintain to notice that moment, I'm a little uncomfortable, and come back. So, we set ourselves that mindset before we go into the coaching. And trust yourself and trust the process that even when it gets uncomfortable and you don't know what to say, it's okay. It's okay. And know that I don't care if you're a beginner coach, if you create a safe space for them to talk through their problem, they're going to appreciate you. And then you just get better at your reflections and your questions over time. I'm still improving as I listen to my just a few years ago recordings and going, what was I doing? So we're always on this path of mastery, wherever it is you're on it. So we need to let go and just be with them. We take the I out. And that's another thing we cover in the course, the unselfing. How very strong and very present with them. And I love this quote by Parker Palmer. The human soul doesn't want to be advised or fixed or saved. It simply wants to be witnessed, to be seen, to be heard, to companion with exactly how it is. That's what we do, no matter if you're starting or you're a way experienced coach. This is what we do that's so powerful that we witness. We're with them. We're fully with them. We're not having to think. We take it in, we offer it back, we ask the question that's come up. And don't explain your question because it gets lost and then you start stacking questions. Just ask it, and if they don't understand, you can say, let me rephrase that. Um, so coaching feeds our own yearning, all of us to be seen, understood, and valued for who we are and who we can become. And many of you have seen this. I love this, that we return to the presence that says, I am here for you. I am here for you. And that's what we want them to be feeling throughout. It's not about me and my performance as a coach and remembering those rigid questions and cliches that I'm supposed to ask, that's often are out of context because I'm in my memory and not fully listen. How many times I've heard the coach ask a question like, so, what's making this important to you? When they just said, I really need to solve this because, instead of saying, so it sounds like this is a critical thing for you now because, you know, so going down the list of questions, you lose connection. How many coaches that I've mentored, like they're like formulaic and stiff up front. And as soon as they get the questions out of the way, then they're totally spontaneous and they do brilliant coaching. So start with that. Listen, slowly move into it. Ask about what they mean, what they want. What does it really look like? When something else comes up to say, is that changing your picture of what you want? And our focus. Stay with them throughout. So we go through this in the training, and I know those of you who've been through the foundation, the breakthrough coaching, that um, uh, we really look at this. And I just want to say, I just turned in my manuscript yesterday for the second edition of Coach the Person, Not the Problem, which will come out next year. So a lot of my training on even this has changed because I really have, I couldn't just redo a piece of it. I went through every page and have really elevated how I work with this. So the really working on keeping our brain, our heart, and our gut open through the process, not just that it keeps them safe and wanting to be with us, but then we can fully receive. And that's intuition. that question. Intuition is what is our heart and our gut saying that we can just offer back without analyzing or worrying about it. And almost every country, and actually, Kristen, it's 47 countries I've worked in now.
Wow. That's amazing. All right, changing it.
So that all the languages have something that says um, I should have trusted my gut. I should have listened to my heart, and so we have to bring that in and know that the brain has to interpret it into language, but don't let the brain change it if you're worried about it. So we receive with our full body presence and then offer it back. So I know a lot of you see me do this. It's like receive and offer back. I've done my work over the years of not thinking why I coach. Not thinking. Yes, I have to translate in words, but I really am not in my head. Yay. But it took many years. So remember, I've been around, I think I joined a coaching school 30 years ago. So I've been around and getting to practice this a lot. And that catching and releasing judgment, because, that's such a, um, mm, we're all judgy by nature. It's a part of our protective mechanism that the brain has to judge everything, every room you walk into. Is this safe? Is this okay? Where should I be? Where should I sit in this class that's going to make me safe and serve my needs? So don't tell me you're not judgmental because we all are. You're just not paying attention to it. And just so I want you all to say to yourself right now, I'm a judgy person. Better to accept that because then we can catch it. Oh, judgment. And I do this because my judgment, if judgment starts as a physical, like all emotions, you get a tenseness. For me, it's right here. Other people, it's back here, or maybe their forehead, and so we catch it and let it go. Let it go, because it doesn't, your judgment has nothing to do with what's going on in the coaching. And when they have that emotion that, and you not wanting to share it, okay, so wow, I really noticed that, all of a sudden, it feels like you don't want to talk about this anymore. What's going on for you? That resistance, or it feels like there's a wall here that something's holding you back. Could you tell me about that? Or the hesitation when they say, okay, I'll try. Well, I don't know. It didn't feel like a full commitment. What do you think? To bring that forward, whatever it is. And if they cry, let them cry. They will come out of it. And then you can ask them what's coming up for you. So there's an arc to all emotions, the trigger, the intensity, and then the release. We wait for the release. Remember, one of my favorite Marciaisms, we're not there to make them feel better. We're there to coach them to see better. So this is the practice, and we get to practice this in the class to receive with no judgment, to appreciate. This is just where they are in their journey right now. To reflect what you notice and to explore how their words and emotions relate to what they want. Even if it's not coaching, if you're talking to someone who has completely different views from you, instead of jumping in and trying to make them see yours, practice this. Practice this. Be curious. You'll throw them off guard if they don't feel there's an attack coming for you from you. And then maybe after you do this, they might be willing to listen to you. Maybe not, but it's a good shot. So we have to give up knowing, to be curious, to believe in them, that they will work through this. They're strong enough that they can come up with new ideas, even though the process may be slower than you hope. Stay with them. Stay with them. So at this point, with what I've shared, what would be most useful for you to develop?
So I was just reading a comment in the Q&A box. Monica says, and then we'll get to your question. I always recall when my jump coach said to me, as I sat on the edge of the plan's open door for the first jump, you have a choice. You can jump or I can push you.
Good. Sometimes I always say, when you take them to the edge, don't back off, just go boop, boop. Pop them
Oh,
over the edge.
so in terms of what will be most useful,
Mhm.
Kayla is saying real presence,
Yeah.
challenging questions.
Hmm.
Rebecca is also another Rebecca, not trying to rush the process.
Yes. So I hear that so many times, the urgency to move forward. No, relax into it. I always say, coach slow, it'll be faster at the end. Yeah.
Oh, smart. I
Hmm.
love that. Julie says not thinking.
Thinking is the enemy of the coach.
uh, Marla says compassionate detaching. I love that phrase.
Hmm.
And Jenna says the right questions that challenge them.
Yeah. Well, the right question is the question that they've given you, because it's since it's based on the reflection. And then you ask the question out of curiosity of what you've reflected. That's the right question. That's the right question. And if they don't get it, then you say it another way. And sometimes they may say, I don't know, I can't answer that right now. That's okay. They will come back to it because their brain will go bop, 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 bop. And so they always do. They always do. Okay, so as we move into wrapping up, to me, you've heard me say the reflection followed by the question. So even if, again, the resistance, hesitation, that we notice, we share what we notice, so you're not uh, challenging them like, so what is it you're resisting? To say, I just noticed that you stopped and and then you change the subject. So what just happened in that moment? So we share what we noticed. We listen to their key words, so you said you really want to feel, like you're more of a partner in this relationship. But then you said, I need to be more tolerant. Well, how does that fit together? So, or what is it? What does partnership to mean to you? That we ask what their words mean. So use your reflection to launch the question is the best way, and using their words so they can hear themselves. Don't summarize everything and leave it there. And please don't summarize everything. Your conciseness in your summary is the best of the key things, and you get better at that. And don't be afraid to be wrong, because then they'll tell you what it is. They'll say, no, 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 that's not it. This is it. And then we go deeper. So being wrong sometimes is even good coaching. So, and then we're always saying, what is it this person really, really, really wants? Because they often don't state it right up front, but you have to then say, is this what it is you really want to work on? Do you want to shift to looking at that? And then what's getting in the way of this smart, capable, resourceful person from seeing a way forward to what they desire to change or create? So again, I want you to remember that wherever you are on your path, sometimes people watch me do a demo and say, well, yeah, that was awesome, but I'll never be able to do that. No, wherever you are is okay. You're going to start by being a little, remembering questions and, but you're creating a safe space, and that's great because it may be the only time of day they get that. And then you work on forgetting what were those questions and what is it I need to do, and trust that you've got the process, that you want to know what they want, what's getting in the way, and then what they will do next. That's all you have to remember. That's it. So, when we look at the final piece, before I hand it over uh, to Kristen, oh, I'm going to go through a little bit of the program. Um, so let me just say, what is it you most, so would this be different? What is it you most want to develop? I think we kind of just asked that, didn't we, Kristen? Okay. So,
Yeah.
what I want to share with you what's in the program. And oftentimes people wait to take classes till they have to renew their certification or something, but ask yourself, is it time for me to up level my skills, to work on this? I'm always listening to other people's webinars and things because I'm always wanting to keep giving more to my clients. Um, And right now, God, it's such a critical time. And I'm not saying that we haven't had difficult times in our history, because we have. But right now, there seems to be so much fear going on and divisiveness. Can we help people to uplift their consciousness, their spirits, and see what else is possible, and help them to learn how maybe what they're learning, they can help others to do the same. um, it's a good time to learn and grow. And what's so awesome about the mastery class is that, and that was my mission that I just gave you, because I really, really um, want to do my best. This is how I'm contributing to what's going on in the world right now. So when we look at this, we're going through, it's just 3 weeks, but that whole thing, that presence, and who are you being as a coach? If you can imagine who it is I want to become as a coach, that's what we're going to work on. What's it going to take to get you there? And then how to help people define what they really want, because it seems like that's where coaches get really stuck. And they're always saying, could you help me make sure that I get the agreement right, or that I didn't miss something? So I'm going to help you with that process. And then how to go deeper into their context, their models, what's truly holding them back. So we go through um, content on the first day, and then we'd go through practice. But the practice is so great because you're actually working with, there's nobody in the class that have not had a foundation of coach training. They have to have either been through the breakthrough program or through a level 1 program. So it's that they have you know, um, something to build on. They know the distinction of coaching. So you're working with people that kind of know where they're going. And we really look at the different levels of experience that come in and try to match you up with that. But there's a platform where you can work together, where you can ask me questions all week. And that and that you get to practice. So again, on the Mondays, we go through 3 hours of content and exercises, and then Thursdays it's all interactive and talking about it. We even watch a demo together and talk about it, and then do some tag team interesting coaching. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kristen so she can explain to you the program. And I hope some of you choose to join us, because it's so much fun, this program. And I know anyone who's gone through it will tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Actually, Marcia, I've talked to a lot of your students who have been through this experience, and you will see testimonials all the way down the page of coaches who have been with Marcia. I would say it's available for 50 coaches, but I wanted to give a big welcome to Vicky. Vicky said that she just registered, so we have 40